Good morning, students. How are you all? I hope fine. Okay, last class we have seen metals and non-metals, properties, differences. Okay, malleability, conductivity, ductility. I hope all of you are clear with that. And those are physical properties of metals and non-metals. So in this class we will see chemical properties of metals. So I am going to teach you chemical properties of metals. Means how they react with oxygen, water and acids. How they react with oxygen, water and acids. Okay. See, you should remember to know how to write chemical reactions, and if chemical reactions is given, how to write sentences on that. You have to remember these all things. See here, metals like sodium, potassium and calcium reacts in same way. See, usually the metals sodium, potassium and calcium, all these reacts in same way. Same way means what? They all are reacting properly. Okay, they all are reacting in the same way. Means how the sodium reacts with oxygen, similarly calcium also reacts with oxygen, similarly potassium also reacts with oxygen. How sodium reacts with water, similarly potassium reacts, similarly calcium reacts, even similarly magnesium reacts. Okay, so how calcium reacts with oxygen, water and acids, similarly even potassium reacts with water, oxygen and acids, calcium reacts with water, oxygen and acids, and magnesium also reacts with water, oxygen and acids. So let us see how they react. So first one is there, Na plus O2 is Na2O. What is Na? Sodium. So this is my sodium. Okay. This reacts with oxygen to form sodium oxide. This we call it as sodium oxide. This is a base. Sodium oxide is also base. So all metallic oxides are base. You remember that. Metallic oxides are basic in nature. You remember that. This is sodium reacts with oxygen. How to write this? You have to have this. There is no option. Okay. The form reaction you have to have. There is no option. Na plus O2, Na2O. Then balancing you have to do. But you will learn that all in 10th class. Balancing of chemical equations. So you buy it right now as per the given 8th class syllabus. Okay. See here, 4 Na plus O2 will give you 2 Na2O. Okay. Here 4 Na plus O2 is there, that is 2 Na2O. That is sodium reacts with oxygen and it produces sodium oxide. Or sodium reacts with oxygen to form sodium oxide. You have to say like this. Sodium reacts with oxygen and sodium reacts with oxygen to form sodium oxide. It will form sodium oxide. Okay, now the formed sodium oxide, it reacts with water to form base. That means this sodium oxide reacts with water to produce sodium hydroxide. So OH comes means it is called hydroxide. Remember this. H for hydrogen, O for oxygen, OH is there means it is hydroxide. Na means sodium. Sodium hydroxide. Sodium oxide. H2O you know, water. This is sodium oxide reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide. It forms sodium hydroxide. It forms sodium hydroxide. Remember this. Sodium reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide. Sodium reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide. I hope you are clear with this. Next, what happens? The formed sodium hydroxide, reacts with acid. The sodium hydroxide is base. It reacts with acid. In the 7th class, we have learned. Do you remember 7th class neutralization reaction? When an acid reacts with base, it forms salt and water. Similarly here, base is reacting with acid. No difference. Base reacts with acid or acid reacts with base. Addition. Okay. There is no difference. Okay. So base reacts with acid or acid reacts with base. Both are same. So when base reacts with acid, it forms what? Salt. NaCl is our salt with water. When sodium hydroxide reacts with hydrochloric acid, HCl is hydrochloric acid. If you are written this in sentence, how to write? Sodium hydroxide reacts with hydrochloric acid to form sodium chloride along with water. This is the way you have to write. So 4Na plus O2 will form you 2Na2O. The formed sodium oxide, that is 2Na2O, reacts with water and it forms sodium hydroxide. The formed sodium hydroxide is again a base. This will react with acid called hydrochloric acid. This will form NaCl plus H2O. That is, NaCl is sodium chloride, that is salt. H2O is water. You have to remember till this much. Okay. Similar things will come in potassium. Similar things will come with potassium. So how to write that? Check out now. 4K plus O2 is 2K2O. Same. In place of Na, just put K. Na is sodium, K is potassium. So 4K plus O2 is forming 2K2O means potassium is reacting with oxygen to form potassium oxide. This is potassium. This is what? Potassium reacts with oxygen to form, what is this? Potassium oxide. This is potassium oxide. This is called potassium oxide. So you have to remember this. The potassium is reacting to form potassium oxide. With which content it is reacting? With oxygen. Potassium is reacting with oxygen to form potassium oxide. So these these are called reactants, that side called products. This is a chemical reaction. In a chemical reaction, left hand side are called reactants, right hand side is called as product. Here potassium reacts with oxygen to form potassium oxide. Thus formed potassium oxide is basic in nature. Why? Because it is a metallic oxide. Metallic oxides are basic in nature. What is acid and base you already know. Okay. So basic in nature, this will react with water. Potassium oxide. This potassium oxide reacts with water to form what? Potassium hydroxide. It forms potassium hydroxide. Remember this. The potassium oxide reacts with water to form potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide is a base. Thus formed potassium hydroxide reacts with HCl, that is acid, hydrochloric acid, and that will form salt and water. KCl means potassium chloride, H2O is water. So potassium hydroxide that reacts with hydrochloric acid. HCl is hydrochloric acid and it will form KCl. KCl means what? Potassium chloride. KCl means what? Potassium chloride. It forms potassium chloride. I hope you are clear up to this much. No problems? Okay. So what? Potassium reacts with oxygen to form potassium oxide. It is basic in nature, which will again react with water. That will form you potassium hydroxide, which is really a base. Okay. Then potassium hydroxide reacts with hydrochloric acid. It will form salt and water. This is called neutralization reaction. The third one is called this or this. You can say neutralization reaction. When acid reacts with base, it forms salt along with water. This process is called as neutralization reaction. And the next one is calcium. Next one is what? Calcium. So what is my calcium? Calcium reacts with oxygen to form calcium oxide. Do you agree? Calcium reacts with oxygen. Let me write those. This is my calcium. This is oxygen. Calcium reacts with oxygen to form calcium oxide. Calcium oxide. Calcium reacts with oxygen to form calcium oxide. Calcium is a metal. Calcium oxide is metallic oxide. Metallic oxides are basic in nature. How to know that metallic oxides are basic in nature? They will turn the red litmus to blue litmus. That means they are basic in nature. So calcium oxide will react with water. The calcium oxide now will react with water. Then what it produces? Calcium hydroxide. Calcium oxide reacts with water. Calcium oxide reacts with water. It produces calcium hydroxide. See, you have to be perfect with these. Okay? Please be perfect with chemical equations. Okay? And now for the calcium hydroxide is a base. Same explanation for all the three. Only metal is changing. That is why it is clearly said that metals like sodium, potassium and calcium reacts in same way. Now calcium hydroxide will react with hydrochloric acid and it will form salt and water. CaCl2 is salt, calcium chloride and water along with water. That is the formed calcium hydroxide reacts with hydrochloric acid. To form calcium chloride along water. Calcium chloride along with water. So this is the process. So I hope you all are clear with these three explanations. So please be perfect with the chemical equation. Okay? Write down the chemical equation properly. Even though you don't write the name, it is okay. You remember the name. You have to remember the name. Calcium. Ca is calcium. K is potassium. Na is sodium. O is for oxygen. NaOH means you have to remember Na means sodium. O and H both are combined. So we call it as hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide. Because hydrogen is there, oxygen is there. So including that we call it as OH as hydroxide. If only O is there, oxide. Na2O. Na is there, O is there. Na is sodium, O oxide. Sodium oxide. K2O. K potassium, O oxide. Potassium oxide. KOH. K potassium, OH hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide. CaOH twice. CaOH twice. Ca is there, calcium, OH is there, hydroxide, calcium hydroxide. Don't worry about OH twice. Those are molecules. You don't worry about that now. So this is how you have to remember. So you have to remember all these formulas. Okay, write down properly. No, you don't need to write these things. Sodium, those names. You just remember those names. Okay, you write properly these chemical equations. I hope you all are clear with this much. Okay, we'll move to next. Okay, that is rusting of iron. That is what? Rusting of iron. Rusting of iron. So what is rusting of iron? See, metals like iron, when they kept to warm atmosphere or air, they react with oxygen of air as well as moisture content in the air. That means they react with oxygen as well as water, and they will form a yellow colored rust. A yellow colored rust will form on the iron, that we call as rusting of iron. See, when iron is kept open to the air, it reacts with air as well as moisture content of the air, and thus it forms rust. Thus it forms what? Rust in the process. What is rust? You have seen already rust. In Kannada you say tukku hidiyodu. So ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರ ತುಕ್ಕು ಹಿಡಿಯೋದನ್ನು. ಏನು ತುಕ್ಕು ಹಿಡಿತದ ಕಬ್ಬಣ. So that iron is getting rusted. ಆ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದೇನು ಯೆಲ್ಲೋ ಕಲರ್ ಒಂದು ಲೇಯರ್ ಬಂದಿರ್ತದೆ. So that we call it as rusting of iron. Okay. So how, why it comes? It comes because it reacts with water. That means water means what? Moisture content of air and oxygen. ಗಾಳಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಿದೆ ತೇವಾಂಶ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ತೇವಾಂಶದ ಜೊತೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ? ಕಬ್ಬಣ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ with air, that is oxygen, as well as moisture content, and thus it will form rust. That it will form rust, and the process is called as rusting of iron. ಕನ್ನಡದಾಗ ಏನಂತೀರಿ? ತುಕ್ಕು ಹಿಡಿಯುವಿಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನೀವು ಕರಿತೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಅದೇನದ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾ? ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್ 4Fe plus 3O2 plus, see, this is x times, this means multiplication. You can write here 2, 3, 1, 4, anything you can write, into H2O. This will give you 2Fe2O3 into x times whatever x you have written here, H2O. This process is called as rusting of iron. When the iron is kept open to the air, it reacts with the air and moisture content of the air. Hence, a yellow colored layer is formed on the surface of iron. This process is called as rusting of iron. You have to remember this. This process is called as rusting of iron. So I will tell once again, you have to write down it. When the iron is when the iron is kept open to air, it reacts with the oxygen. It reacts with the oxygen and moisture content of air. Hence, a yellow colored, so not yellow, properly brownish we can say, a brown colored layer is formed on the surface of iron. This process is called as rusting of iron. Okay. So x you can write any number. For example, if I take, if 4Fe will react with 3O2. For example, I will take two molecules of water. It is reacted with two molecules of water. So it will form me 2Fe2O3 into two molecules of water. This is very, very important. This is called rusting of iron. So 3O2. 4Fe reacts with 3O2 and 2H2O. It will form 2Fe2O3, 2H2O. So you have to remember all these things. Rusting of iron. So I will tell you once again, those who have not written the notes, see this one, you have to write it down. Okay. So for which formula you have to write what is rusting of iron. If question is asked, you have to write whatever I am telling now, and with this you have to write this equation. Without this equation, you will not get any marks. So if you want to get marks, this equation is must. This equation is compulsory. This equation is must. So how to say when iron? See, iron formula is Fe. Fe is the formula of iron, you already know. Please by heart all the formulas. Don't leave them. All the metals and non-metals which I have already given the list. So last class we have listed. Please perfect them because in 10th metals and non-metals chapter is there. If you perfect now, then you will learn there properly. Because lot of reactions will come in 10th. So if you don't know the formula, then it will be very difficult for you people. Okay. So now we'll see once again what is rusting of iron. So when iron is kept open to air, it reacts with oxygen and moisture content of the air, and hence a brownish colored layer is formed on the surface of iron. Where it is formed? On the surface of iron, and this process is called as rusting of iron. So this process is called as rusting of iron. So ನೀವು ಕಬ್ಬಿಣ ಇಟ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಮೇಲ್ಪದರೊಳಗೆ ಏನು ಕಾಣ್ತದ ಒಂದು ಬ್ರೌನಿಶ್ ಅಥವಾ ರೆಡ್ಡಿಶ್ ಕಲರ್ಡ್ ಒಂದು ಲೇಯರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗ್ತದ. So you can say brownish. You check out the book whether it is brownish or reddish. If it is written reddish there, write it as reddish. If it is written brownish there, write it as brownish. Okay. So now we call it in Kannada tukku hidivike. Tukku hidivike ante Kannada ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಜಗ್ ಹಿಡಿತದ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. So please be perfect with this. 4Fe plus 3O2 plus X times H2O, 2Fe2O3 XH2. Either you write this or you write this. Any of two you write, so you will get the marks. This is general. If I take an example of if it reacts with 2 molecules of water. If it reacts with 3 molecules of water, just I have to change here 3 molecules of water. That's it. So only this much we can say. So in this class what we have seen? Chemical properties of metals and non-metals. In that we have seen chemical properties of metals. How calcium, how sodium, potassium, calcium reacts with first what? Oxygen. Thus formed metal oxide, which is basic in nature. This question might be asked. What is the property of metallic oxide? Metallic oxides are basic in nature. You should remember. The formed metallic oxide reacts with water and it will form metallic hydroxide. The formed hydroxide reacts with, that is base. That base reacts with HCl, that is acid, and thus it will form salt and water. This process is called as neutralization reaction. You have to remember all the chemical equations of this class. This class is completely of chemical reactions. Remember, very easy. Remember, you perfect them. Remember them. This is very much important, rusting of iron. Okay, you just add this 4Fe plus 3O2 plus X times H2O, 2Fe2O3 into X times H2O. Tell it 10 times. Write it 10 times. Then you will perfect this. And after writing this, you have to know how to write it. The iron reacts with oxygen and water. That means when iron is kept to air, it reacts with oxygen and water or moisture content of air, and this is called a layer. What we can say, a brownish layer is formed on the surface of iron. This process is called as rusting of iron. So if you take one example, you can do the example it's putting x as 3 or it's putting x as 2. So this is about this class. Okay. So remaining things, see these all are not properly explained in your textbook. So better go through the video. So whatever video I am doing, so you concentrate on the video and you will understand. These are very important. It might ask in your examiner or it might ask in 10th also. So these are very much important. So I am telling you, these are not properly explained in your textbook. So please maintain the notes while watching the video. Okay, we'll see the remaining things in the next class.